What's up? Welcome to English conversation, intercultural communication, all that good stuff. This week, week number 2, I'm going to be talking to you about pronunciation, just some tips. Now, this is not my pronunciation class. I have another course that delves deeply into pronunciation. Well, not super deeply, but gives you activities, exercises of pronunciation. But as we're talking about conversation, one of the biggest things that my students always say they struggle with is
my pronunciation is not good, so I can't speak because I feel a bit like people are going to judge me and I don't want them to say to me, hey, what did you say?
So I get that a lot. I get that over and over again every semester. So I offer this out of the kindness of my heart. These little tips and tricks. I'm gonna try and add them in as much as possible so that you know what to look out for especially when you're preparing presentations, speeches. All of this comes in really handy, so you know how to prepare. You know what to look for. You know how a native speaker speaks and what it is that you should do in order to get your message across clearly and within the same rhythm as a native speaker. All right. So instead of slang words or new words that you may not be familiar with, I'm gonna look at a couple of things from a specific text called Saturday Morning. Okay, so we're gonna look at this text called Saturday Morning, and I'm gonna pick up a few key things that I think you need to look out for, and then you need to pay careful attention, especially if you are a Korean speaker of English. Now, if you are not a Korean learner of English, if you're from a different country, I would encourage you to focus and hone in on the difficulties that you have in accordance with your language. So this is how the text goes. First, I called my mother. We talked for an hour. Then I played tennis, went home and took a shower. I went to the kitchen, made a cup of tea, took out my English book and studied carefully. I finished all my homework without a mistake. Then I decided to take a little itty bitty break. I sat down for a minute to watch some TV, fell asleep, and oh my gosh, I woke up at 3. Now, there are a couple of things that I would be teaching you about, and we'll use a big board in a minute. But before we go there, here are some things that my Korean learners of English need to pay careful attention to. Number 1, if the sound does not exist in your language, do not replace it with another sound that is more familiar, right? It's a bad habit. Instead, learn the mouth position for that sound and say it over and over and over again. Do tongue twisters. Do the warm-up. Really, really important. I taught you a warm-up last week. That is really particular to Korean learners of English. If you are not a Korean learner of English, find the sounds that you most have trouble with and focus on them. Even if you're a Korean learner of English, if you feel like some sounds you totally have the hang of, but you need more practice on others, and focusing on that. But in general, do a warm-up, massage your face, say all of the sounds, everything like that. Really, really great. So, number 1 thing here, we have the words with TH sound. Now, there are 2 types of TH sounds. There's one where we say, like the word mother. You can feel your tongue is moving and shaking, vibrating. And then we have the word 3, where your tongue is not shaking and vibrating, but if you put your mouth right here, 3, you can feel some air pushes out. So those are the 2 types of TH sounds. Both of them are made in the same place. The tip of your tongue is literally like this. It's literally touching, it's mostly touching, it's in between, so your tongue is in between your bottom teeth and your top teeth, but you're literally just, a little bit of your tongue is touching, the tip of it is touching your top front teeth. So, right, that's how you make it. You need to make that position in order to make the right sound, alright? So, when you say the word mother, you need to put your tongue in that place. If you bite your teeth, or if your tongue is behind your teeth, you're gonna make the D sound. So it's gonna sound like mother, right? And that's what I hear all the time. My students just say mother, father, all of that, brother. They say that all the time. Now, is it a huge problem? I don't think it's a huge problem. If you do say mother, people would still know. But if you want to sound clearer and better, get your tongue positioning right. So the same goes for 3. A lot of my students say 3, 3, 3. 3 people, 3. Can you see that? 3, 3. Get the tongue position right. Tip of your tongue right in the middle. So the first words I want you to practice this week are mother and 3. Mother, 3. Mother, 3. Just keep saying it over and over again. Number 2 is past tense endings. Actually, it's not just past tense endings. Plural endings are also an issue for my Korean students. Usually they don't say them, or they say the wrong thing, especially if it's past tense ending. So in here we have 2 words that I want to pick out. It's finished and decide, right? Now finished has ed on it, but we do not say the ed. We don't say finished. We say finished with a T sound. Really, really important that you know how we pronounce past tense endings. Really important. There are some rules. I'll post them, learn them, use them. And the word decided. Now, decided has it's so complicated. I'll just post the rules. But basically, if the original word decide ends in a D or a T, then you pronounce the ed. So another word that ends in T. What's another word that ends in T? Oh, this is testing my knowledge now. Decided. Paint. Ends in a T sound. So the ed will be pronounced as it is written. Painted. But a word like finish, it doesn't end in a T or a D, so it has a different type of sound. And it all comes down to pronunciation, and it sounds really complicated, but it's really simple. There's just some rules, you've got to follow it. So the way that you pronounce those 2 words is finished and decided. Really important. Why do we need to pronounce it properly? Because it goes with the rhythm. If you don't pronounce it properly, it changes the rhythm, and then it sounds different. It doesn't sound as good, and it doesn't sound as clear. So we're going for clarity, right? The next one is the word itty bitty or itty bitty. Now, I'm from England, and so I say my T's like they are T. Itty bitty. That's just the way that I say it. But Americans say itty, so that T changes into a D sound. Itty bitty. So this, I don't even know if I'm doing it right, but the sounds are different. So bear that in mind as you are speaking or watching things. Look out for it. Americans change their T into slightly D sound, but British keep it. And itty bitty basically means tiny. And if you know, there's a famous song, the Incy Bincy. It's also the same kind of word, so it's a variant. Itty bitty, incy bincy, same thing. It means tiny, very tiny, small. And the last one is TV. What I hear in Korea, a lot of people say TV, so they make the B sound when they should make the sound. TV. Your mouth shape and where your tongue is super important. Get to know that. All right, so that you remember. That's really, really important. Remember, Korean teacher says your mouth is important. Your tongue, your teeth, everything like that is important to sounding correctly. So TV, and then the other thing that I find is that sometimes, I can't remember exactly, but some of my students say T. It's like the stress or the way that where they put the loud and quiet is different. So they would either say TV or TV, something like that, something weird. I can't remember it exactly, but the way that you pronounce this is that both letters are said strongly. TV, alright? TV. I'm watching TV, not TV or TV. Like, there's no quiet and loud. Both of them are said strongly. Really, really important, right? So I hope that helps you. So I want you to practice out these words. Mother. 3. Finished. Decided. Itty bitty. TV. Alright? TV. Same string. Okay, let's go to the board and take a look at the whole text and how we can prepare to say it with the help of some pronunciation things. Bam! Okay, let's take a look at the text. So it's called Saturday Morning, and this is a jazz chant. I got it from YouTube, but it is by a wonderful lady called Caroline Graham. I think this is by Caroline Graham. But what she makes is that she makes these little chants, they're jazz chants, and they mimic how native speakers speak. Now, one thing I want to stress out is that the purpose of this exercise or the purpose of this activity is not to transform you into a native speaker and give you their accent, but it's so that you learn and you practice what techniques a native speaker uses so that you can sound clear. So it may be that you still have your Korean accent come through from time to time, or your Japanese or your Chinese or your French, your German, whichever. It may be that that comes through. That's not a problem at all. But as long as you're doing what a native speaker does when they speak, you are going to sound a lot more clear. Now, what does a native speaker do when they speak? Number one is that they are well aware of syllables, right? And syllables is how the word is broken up. Once you know how the word is broken up, then you can think about within a word which syllable is said loudly and quietly, because that will help with sounding clearly. And then also, what else do you need to know? You need to be able to know how to say a piece of written script. What does a native speaker do? Well, native speakers, they don't just say, first I called my mother, we talked for an hour, then I played tennis, went home and took a shower, I went to the kitchen, made a cup of tea, took out my English book and studied carefully, I finished all my homework without a mistake, then I decided to take a little itty bitty break, I sat down for a minute to watch some TV, fell asleep, and oh my gosh, I woke up at 3. That's what some of my students do. Why do you do that? It's not interactive, it's not good, don't do that. You just reading it from beginning to end, it doesn't give us the message. You need to think about where you're going to pause. So that's what a native speaker does. They pause at specific places to give more power to a message. So if I just said everything in one go with the same strength, the person who's listening to me doesn't really know what the heck I said, because they'll probably appreciate you for the fact that you read fast. They'll be like, woo, that was really fast. What did you say? They're like, maybe I heard first and 3. That was about it. So that's not a good way to give speeches, to speak. You need to think about pausing. Now, naturally we do that when we talk. Like now that I'm talking to you, I naturally pause. I say some bunch of words, and then I have a little break, and then I say some more bunch of words, and then I have a little break, and then I say some more bunch of words. Nobody talks like a computer. Nobody's like this all the time talking, because our brains are like working inside trying to figure it out. So what I always say to my students is you need to start thinking about pausing and taking little mini breaks between sentences or between groups of words, so that your message can come across more loudly, more clearly. Okay, so let's take a look at how we can do this. So number one, what I would do, especially today I'm just talking about non-improvised words. So here you have something written, like you can have a speech, or you can have a presentation, you have a script that's written. This is what you can do to prepare. Now, the more that you do this, the more you get used to how a native speaker speaks, the more you'll be able to do it when you also speak naturally, when you have a conversation. So this is really for preparing for speeches, presentations, and all of that. So we're looking at this. And another thing that really helps to kind of learn what a native speaker does is if you do a lot of rhythmic things, a lot of poems, a lot of songs, a lot of chant, it will help you to be able to pick up the rhythm of English, and then you can do it more naturally. Okay, let's take a look. So what I would do if I were you, and I was analyzing this text. If a word only has one syllable, I don't need to worry about it. But if it has more than one syllable, then I do need to think about what parts do you say loudly, what parts do you say quietly, all right? So for example, I have the word here, cold, cold. Now, I always tell my students how you count syllables is super easy. You say the word cold, and we only count the vowel sounds that we hear. So in this word, cold, what vowel sound do you hear? O, old. So I wipe away the consonants because we don't count consonants. Cold. And then I can also wipe away this because I don't hear the E. I don't say cold. So I just have one vowel, all right? One vowel. How else can you check is you take your hand and put it just underneath your jaw like this, and you say the word cold. Now, how many times does my jaw go up, down, and then back up? It only went down one time, so it only has one syllable. Same as first. I goes down once, comes back up. But if you say the word mother, let's take a look. Mother, mother. It has two. My jaw went down like this, all right? So how many beats does a word have is really, really important as well. So figure that out. Figure that out. If a word has more than one beat, more than one syllable, you need to know how to pronounce that word. Which part of the word goes loudly, which part of the word goes quietly. That will also help you to sound more clear. If you know how to say a word, that will help you to sound more clear. Also, if you work on your sound. So there's so many different things that you can work on. Take it one at a time. If you don't know much about syllables, get comfortable with syllables. If you struggle with so many sounds, then improve your sounds and then move on to the next thing and then the next thing. So that's what you can do. Another thing that you can do just to save yourself time is you can go on howmanysyllables.com, and that will tell you how many syllables are in the word and also how you pronounce that word. If you get a good dictionary, that will also tell you how many syllables, and hopefully it will tell you it should tell you how many syllables and which one is said most loudly. A great website that I like to go on, which is user-friendly, super simple, is dictionary.com. If you type in your word, not only will it tell you how many syllables it's broken into, how you pronounce it, you can also hear it as well. So that helps you too. Another website is twophonetics.com. That will tell you how a word is pronounced and how it's broken up and everything like that. So you need all of that in order to sound your clearest, in order to sound your most wonderfulest. So I won't bore you with all of that breaking down of the words and everything. If you do want to, then you let me know. I think I'm gonna ask you guys to do that for homework. But these are the words that I pointed out earlier. Mother, because for my Korean learners of English, these are the words that usually give a bit of an issue. Okay, itty and TV. Mother. Well, there was another word and three. Okay, these are the words in the text that are a bit of an issue. Okay, so I've talked a little bit about syllables and about word stress. What does word stress mean? It's basically, how do you say the word? Which part do you say louder, stronger, with a higher pitch? So in a word with more than one syllable, like mother, we would say mother, mother. So we say this one loudly, this one quietly. Again, you're looking out for some of these words. They look like they could be more than one syllable, but when you break it down, they only have one. So if you say talked, it only has one. This E is silent, so we don't need to worry about that. Played only has one, but the word tennis has two. Now, the way that you break it up, usually I break it up like this, mother, and then if there's two consonants next to each other, and they don't make one sound, then you can break it up there. Tennis, 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 right? So you can go through the text, finding words with 2 or more syllables and putting down how you're supposed to say it. That will help you as well to sound a little bit clear. The next thing that you need to do is you need to be able to put in the pauses. Now the pauses is really up to the speaker. Generally, a general rule that I go by is follow the punctuation, because the punctuation are like your if you see the punctuation as though it's your director, your film director, it tells you what you should do, tells you how you should say, where you should say. Now, if you have a full stop, it's a bigger pause, so you can put a line like this, okay? 2 lines maybe just to show, let's put 2 lines just to make it clear. So what would happen in here, I'm going to talk about it a little bit more in detail, and then we move on to the next part. We talked for an hour, then I played, we talked for an hour. Oh, there should be a full stop here. Talked for an hour, so I can put in a pause. Then I played tennis, went home and took a shower. Then I played tennis. I feel like a break here would be good. Went home and took a shower. I feel like even though there's a comma here, I feel like when I read it, I'm not really making a break. So I'm gonna choose not to use this and end it here. And it's up to you. Remember, if you're preparing a speech, how you want the message to be delivered is really important. Now, if I put in a pause here, this is what it would sound like. First, I called my mother. We talked for an hour. Then I played tennis, went home, and took a shower. Can you see that? So this would be on its own. Went home. Now, if I really want my audience or the people who are like listening to me to really pay attention to the fact that I went home, I can put in a break. But for me, I don't think I need it there, so I can take it out. I went to the kitchen. Made a cup of tea. So I'm gonna put it that way. Oh, I need. Took out my English book and studied carefully. Alright, so I'm gonna put it that way. I'm not gonna do the rest because I'm gonna give it to you to figure out, alright? So here we go. So first I called my mother, we talked for an hour, then I played tennis, went home and took a shower. Can you see? It has that kind of beat. Mother, tennis, shower. I went to the kitchen, made a cup of tea. Took out my English book. And studied carefully. Actually, I might put a break here because I feel like I want a break there. So it's up to you. You decide where the break goes as long as it makes sense. What I generally do, if it's a small sentence and it has a full stop, you can take a break there. If it's a longer sentence and it has commas or just other punctuation marks, maybe consider breaking it down, read it and see how it feels. So you kind of play around with it a little bit. The reason why we do this is because I find most of my students they write the text, they spend a lot of time writing the text, and then they just stand on the day of the presentation or in a conversation and they just say, first I called my mother, we talked for an hour, then I played tennis, went home and took a shower. And it lacks the life and it lacks the interactiveness. It's not how a native speaker would speak. It's not the techniques that a native speaker would use. So it just feels dead, flat, blah, not interesting. So to make it more interesting, you need to think about how you're going to say it, not just what you're going to say. Another thing that a native speaker is doing is that they're linking, right? Linking is really important. In order to sound more natural and more clear, you need to do a lot of linking. To start off with, we'll just focus on linking the last consonant to the next vowel. That's the easiest. So we can do first I, all right? And what you find is when you're linking, sometimes the word sounds like another word. It doesn't matter, first I, because within the context, the person will get it. First I called my mother. We talk. We talk. We talk. We could link it, but let's not do that. Let's just do consonant and vowel. Foreign, hour. Now, here, this doesn't have a sound. The doesn't have a sound. We immediately hear this hour, right? We hear a vowel sound, so we can link them. So this is how it would sound. First, I call my mother. We talk for an hour, for an hour, instead of for an hour. Say for an hour, for an hour. Good. Then I played tennis. Then I played tennis. Went home and, since this is in the same chunk, went home and, good. Home and took a shower. Good. I went to the, now this is interesting. We have two T's next to each other. We can just link those because it's the same sound, so it's easy to move into the next one. I went to the kitchen, made the, so this E is silent, so we're gonna link those two, the the and made the cup of tea. Made a cup of tea. Took out my English book and studied carefully. Right, so we've got our links, and then what do you do next? The next thing that you do, so there's so many layers to speaking in English. It's not just writing and then just standing there and speaking. There's so many layers. Consider the syllables. Consider the word stress. There's also something called sentence stress, but another time. We'll look at that another time. Consider where you're going to have your pauses. Consider the linking. And then finally, when you're speaking, what you need to do. This is what you need to do, and this will help you to sound even much better. Is that for every chunk, for every group of words before your pause, you say it in one breath. No stopping, all right? So you don't have these, this is what I usually hear from my student. First, I called my mother. Can you hear that? The beat would be That's okay if it's a textbook about listening, about an examination, and you want the kids to understand every single word. But normally, this is how it would sound. First, I called my mother. Right? All the words are said in one breath, no pauses, until we get here. Really, really important. I cannot stress it. Make sure you say everything in one go until it gets here. What it will be forcing you is to speak a bit faster. You don't have to do it super fast, but it will make you speak a bit faster. And it will also make you say some words a little bit loudly, some words a little bit quietly. So let's take a look at it. First, I called my mother. First, I called my mother, all right? We talked for an hour. We talked for an hour. Then I played tennis. Then I played tennis. Went home and took a shower. Now this is a little bit longer. Went home and took a shower. Went home and took a shower. I went to the kitchen, made a cup of tea. Took out my English book and studied carefully. Right? So let me try it again. First I called my mother. We talked for an hour. Then I played tennis. Went home and took a shower. Then I played tennis. Went home and took a shower. Right? I went to the kitchen, made a cup of tea. Now, if you find this too long, you can say, I went to the kitchen, made a cup of tea. You can break it. Totally fine. Took out my English book and studied carefully. All right. You see, you can do it. You can so do it. So, there's a lot of things that I talked about today. A lot of things that I've thrown at you. If you forget every other thing, remember the two things. Mark your pauses, right? In your speeches, any written work that you are going to speak and say out loud, mark your pauses, mark your linking, right? Mark your linking, and then say everything in one go. Now, some styles of linking, and we'll learn about them a little bit later, they are more for informal talking. When you're doing a formal talking, you may not want to link too much. These are fine, but some styles of linking, like using words such as gonna for going to, that's for informal situations, not formal situations. So you need to be able to take that into consideration as well. But the other things, linking a consonant to a vowel. This is what a native speaker does, or linking similar consonants to each other. If you also find any other examples in here, please link them. Now, your homework for this week, or your exercise activity for this week, is practice what I've done and then do the rest for the rest of the chant as well. Mark it and then record yourself saying it, because what's the point of doing all of this if you're not going to practice it out loud? And then next week I'll show you what else you can do to it to make it sound even more clear. Give it a go, give it a practice. I hope you liked it. If you did like this lesson, please give it a big thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel, because some people are trying to get monetized up in here. And I'll see you next week. Next week we'll be taking a look at just kind of conversations in general, and maybe, if possible, I'm going to try and interview somebody. I'm going to start looking at English from the global perspective. I have some really great friends who I really do hope that I get the chance to interview, so we can know what their experiences with English is like. So not all my friends are going to be native speakers. Some of them are going to be like you. They've learned English and now they use it as a medium of communication. So you can learn a lot from them. If you have any specific interests or questions that you would like to know, or you would like me to ask them, please let me know. Have a good weekend. Stay safe, stay positive, stay blessed, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.